Now, Police Minister Senzo Mchunu says the South African Police Service has secured a partnership with the private sector to begin digitizing case dockets, as well as to upgrade 5 police stations. The identified police stations are in Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo and the Western Cape. During a press briefing on the outcomes of the 3-day policing summit held in Ekurhuleni last week, Mchunu said the focus will be on 5 police stations. National Police Commissioner Rafadi at the press briefing added that advanced technology will be the future of policing in South Africa. Masemola says one of the major outcomes from the policing summit was that the only way to effectively fight crime is to use the latest technology despite budgetary constraints. Masemola says the use of body-worn cameras will not only help in the fight against crime but also reduce corrupt activities. Now, to talk about how technology can be used to effectively fight crime in South Africa, we're joined by crime and forensics expert Rafadi. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, the key message that emerged from that 3-day National Policing Summit is that crime fighting in South Africa essentially needs sharpening, especially because police officers are dealing with limited resources and increasing demands. What's your perspective?
Yes, good evening and good evening to your viewers. First of all, I just want to take the opportunity to say condolences to the family of Jenny Irish Koboshiani. Indeed, she was a good researcher and one of the best crime experts. So condolences to the family. Yes, indeed, we do need technology, to fight crime. But again, once we also caution some of those in the procurement department, especially in the SAPS, that we shouldn't very soon hear about corrupt activities whereby certain gadgets, they need to be purchased and it was never purchased. And we've seen that, you remember the issue about the 100 million so-called grepper machine in the crime intelligence. But indeed, we do need technology to fight crime. But at the same time, also, it needs also to be deployed in some of our townships and villages where crime is very high. We've seen that we've got challenges of enough lighting. So we need enough Apollo lights in some of those townships. We need the CPF, the community police forums, to have two-way radios to communicate with some of the sector bakkies that are patrolling from the police station in those nearby areas. And again, we've seen that one of the main agenda was that police must be felt and seen in the communities. So, upgrading of the police stations, we welcome that. And we are also saying, let those other areas which are very far, remote areas, let's have, some of the kiosks or temporary structures being built or being dispatched to be temporary police station in some of those areas.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the face of all these constraints, I mean, the South African police bosses are committing to better use resources to tackle crime. I mean, just expanding for one on the body cams, which will soon be rolled out, and also talking a bit about an operational room being created to monitor their overall progress. Will it work in South Africa?
No, most certainly it will work. And remember, it's a pilot project. The last time I think we spoke, they said that they are only going to dispatch or release at least 100 of the body cams. So this will not only, help, bodies like IPID to now see that the police are doing their work, and those who are the rotten potatoes within the SAPS, they will now work efficiently because they will know that whatever the operations they are at, they are being monitored through those body cams. So indeed, it will yield some of those results. But again, we've got so many guns roaming in our streets in the wrong hands of the criminals. And we even had disturbing news. In Cape Town, there are a number of syndicates that are even manufacturing their own weapons, homemade guns for that matter, we can call it. Yeah. And we've seen that Operation Shanyala only operates from Thursday until Friday, but it's so effective in Gauteng. What about the other provinces? Let's operate Operation Shanyala 24/7 from Monday to Monday so that we can get rid of these particular guns of this.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on this very briefly. I mean, we also heard a little bit about the matter about police presence versus police visibility, which was also analysed at the 3-day summit. And there's a difference between being seen and being felt. So officers, of course, need to focus a lot more on having a more intentional and impactful presence. How much of a difference can that have on communities who are, in some instances skeptical that the police are actually doing enough to help fight crime?
Yes, no, we welcome the move. In fact, when police are felt, they work hand in hand with the communities. And we are very happy that the problem has been diagnosed, even by the president, to say communities know what is happening in their area, who are some of these criminals. And once they can have the trust in the police and relate those type of messages to the police, and then they will work efficiently. But at the same time, we will also urge some of our police officers that let's have Ubuntu. Do not, speak loud to certain victims of people that are coming to report crime. We do know that, some of you, mental health, you are affected by some of, the industry or not getting promotion or, things like that. But let's work hand in hand with the communities. Informants in the communities, they need to be alerted that there is a reward that you are being paid to be an informant, to bring, good information. There's a committee that sits and analyzes how much one can be paid. Yep. So those type of structures, people need to know about them as well.
As you speak about that, and also the critical need for digital literacy in the police service also came out very strongly during the summit. What do you think some of the best technological methods can be in fighting crime? What can be used in fighting crime?
Yeah, I think one of the critical issue they spoke about is the so-called the e-labs. Now, with the e-labs, we've seen many cases that they are thrown out of court, and some are even withdrawn for that matter. So it's because of the backlog of the DNA, the analysis. So some of the defense, they will take that opportunity to poke into the case and say, you guys are not ready for prosecution, and such cases get thrown out of court, including issues of the ballistics. There are so many cases that get withdrawn or even, chucked out of court because of the issue of the delay of the gun ballistics. So we welcome those efforts about the e-labs. And then at the same time, like we say with the technology, issues of the drones, they will yield results, especially in areas where it's very difficult to patrol. So, some of those drones, they will be deployed in some of those areas so that they can actually, bring certain data so that the police can patrol. Yep. But here's another thing that is very worrying that I've observed, is that there are so many patrolling vehicles, and including some of the vehicles that are used by the detective. They are just idling and sitting at government garage, or where we can say the workshop of the RMI. A business needs to help us and look into, servicing those vehicles so that they can go back to the streets and make certain efforts and yield the results.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening. Crime and forensics expert Calvin Rafadi.